I'd like to start this morning by telling you a story about a passion of mine, ice hockey. When many of you hear that I was a D1 varsity ice hockey player at Dartmouth College, you might have one of these thoughts going through your head. But she has all of her teeth. Or, she seems kind of small to be a hockey player. Or, they had women's ice hockey back then? While women's ice hockey was fairly new, many of the girls and women that played grew up with backgrounds similar to mine. We learned to skate and play by joining our brothers and dads on backyard ponds, at local rinks, or even hiding our identities under hockey helmets and pads. Society was opening doors for women and girls, but they still were not ready to embrace full equality, especially in sports. My skating career began on the streets of Holyoke, Massachusetts. There is a picture of me at 4 with the type of roller skates that you would strap over your shoes. I looked like a young toughie because I had an older brother and a slew of neighborhood kids that I was determined to keep up with. We were allowed to play outside, unsupervised, for hours, and I spent many happy days roller skating up and down the sidewalks. When I was 5, I received an elegant pair of white figure skates for Christmas. My dad built me a rink in the backyard, and I declared that I wanted to be the next Peggy Fleming. You see, I had watched every minute I could of figure skating at the Winter Olympics, as well as on the wide world of sports, which we tuned into on Sunday afternoons. And she was the gold medalist, as well as 3-time world champion. There weren't any female hockey players on TV yet, and I just knew I loved to skate. My brothers delighted in calling me Piggy Fleming, but I devoted myself to becoming the best skater I could be. There was also a pond down the street, and I joined in the neighborhood games of pond hockey. In these games, the only real rule was that you had to be tough or you couldn't play. I had 2 brothers. I knew how to be tough. Fast forward to high school. Phillips Exeter Academy from 1979 to 1983. PEA had been an all-male school until 1971. When I arrived, there were still 3 males to every 1 female student, with a largely all-male faculty. The original announcement, according to the Harvard Crimson in 1970, had been made by the trustees who stressed that coeducation will not mean sacrificing any part of the education of Exeter boys or reduce the number of boy students. The fear was that we women would water down an Exeter education, not that we might push the boys to be better. The hallways were still lined with pictures of men in gilt frames, but I was surrounded by some of the smartest students, male and female, that I have ever encountered, and we were a highly competitive bunch. It was at Exeter that I played my first organized ice hockey. As a 9th grader, or prep, I took part in the daily physical education program we fondly called Prep Spaz, where we tried a new sport every 2 weeks. We were doing skating drills, and the gym teacher, who was also the boys' ice hockey coach, saw me and said, "You can skate. You need to go out for girls' ice hockey." Girls' ice hockey? I had never heard of such a thing. By senior year, I was playing varsity. My parents were a bit shocked. They were not big ice hockey fans, and their primary concern was protecting their investment in my teeth with their newly minted braces. But like all my passions, once I assured my parents that I would not step foot on the ice without my mouth guard, they became my most devoted fans. What I remember about my high school experience with hockey is that, like all areas of my life, I wanted to be good at the sport, really good. I drove my parents crazy practicing my wrist shot and slap shot against my bedroom door. PEA had 2 rinks, and so the girls had equal ice time to the boys, similar locker rooms and schedules, and good coaches. The only difference was that many students came to watch the boys play, but rarely came to watch the girls. The boy hockey players walked around campus with a bit of swagger, and the male teachers often went out of their way to engage in hockey talk with the boys, commenting on a recent game or the likelihood of beating our rival, Phillips Andover. As females, we were used to the boys reminding us that they were faster and more skilled, but it was the first time we saw that prowess at a sport gave you special treatment if you were male. From Exeter, I went on to play ice hockey for Dartmouth College, which in many ways was an incredible experience. For me, there were several pivotal moments. After one grueling tryout where we had done endless sprints, the captain, who terrified me because she looked like she could take out anyone who crossed her, came to me and said, "I think you need some new skates." I had been wearing my brother's hand-me-downs, which were an older, clunky style with steel blades and leather uppers. Once a member of the team, I was fitted for a new pair of skates with lightweight carbon blades and synthetic uppers that we soaked in the trainer's hot tub, then wore to practice so they molded to our feet. Lo and behold, I could stop on a dime. My father's motto was always, "It's not about the equipment," but the right equipment sure made a difference. This was confirmed when the team funds paid for me to have contacts instead of glasses, which I did not wear on the ice. In the first game with the contacts, I scored a game-winning goal. My coach was thrilled with his investment. However, Dartmouth also had been a previously all-male school. It was the last of the Ivies in 1972 to vote to accept women. Dartmouth's conversion to fully endorsing coeducation was rocky at best. Many alumni wanted to, and I quote here, "keep the damned women out." The school's song, "Men of Dartmouth," was not changed until 1988, which was after I graduated. The women's ice hockey team was not treated the same as the men's ice hockey team. We had to practice in the evening, which cut into study time, and we were given a much smaller locker room than the men, as well as a smaller budget for travel and meals. One of the most visible differences was that the men's jerseys had their names on the back, while ours did not. Of course, large crowds turned out for the men's games, complete with pep band and a rowdy student section, while our fans tended to be parents and a few dedicated friends. Finally, my senior year, a talented coach was hired who had 3 daughters, and he fought like hell to make the situation more equitable with small successes. We never did get our names on our jerseys. I went on to coach girls ice hockey at both St. Paul's and Concord High School, where the girls and I faced many of the same challenges. However, as more girls played at a younger age, society's expectations began to change. Girls' teams have sprung up all over the United States in schools like Exeter and Dartmouth, which are now 50-50 males to females, recruit players from all over the world. Women's ice hockey has been an Olympic sport since 1998, and I like to think of myself as a bit of a pioneer, both in coeducation and in women's ice hockey. The doors have opened to girls, and they have made their mark on the sport and in education. Maybe some even have their names on their hockey jerseys now. So this, I believe. I believe that being part of a coeducational community has taught me to be strong, to work to change inequities, and to compete with the very best. I believe that many schools that were once all male have come a long way under coeducation, but still have areas to address. I believe that schools are microcosms of the larger community, which still has major discrepancies in the way it treats male sports and its participants. I believe that playing ice hockey has made me both physically and mentally tough. So I leave you with one question. Is it time for Derryfield to have a girls' ice hockey team?